Hello everyone, this is Tada Subramaniam again here, and today I'm going to discuss about the differences between Tableau and Power BI. So there are multiple factors on which we are going to evaluate both the tools. There are certain use cases we are going to discuss, and then we will see which tool is suitable depending on your needs. Now, before I start this video, many people have asked me which is better. It's Tableau is better or Power BI is going to be better. So through this video, I want to show the advantages and disadvantages of both the tools, as I personally like both of them. And we will see, and I leave it up to you as to which tool you prefer for data analysis. So any tool that you prefer, just keep the objective in mind and also the organization needs. And based on that, the required tool can be chosen. Having said that, it does not really impact you if you learn both the tools, because both the tools has its pros and cons, and they will be effectively helping you to become a better analyst. So let's start with our analysis of this. So these are the following things we are going to basically discuss and compare these two tools on these following parameters. So interface and the ease of use. The second one is going to be about data formatting, the ease of formatting. The third one is going to be the calculations part, where we will discuss some use cases, and we will discuss the same use case and approach using Power BI and Tableau to solve that same problem. The types of data connections both of the tools supports. Pricing. When you are working in an organization, the pricing cost will come with respect to licenses. And finally, the size of the data source, which each of the tool can accommodate. So these are the factors that we are going to consider. And let's see with the first one, the interface and the ease of use. So now I am opening the Tableau interface over here. And if you can see over here, it has a pretty neat interface in my opinion. So I have used Tableau for my analysis as the first tool, and then I learned Power BI later. So when I look at the first glance as a new user, I see that the layout is very simple. It is not cluttered a lot. And I can see that there are some red and blue pills which are present over here. These are nothing but the dimensions and the measures which Tableau actually defines it. Now, if I go further step back over here and I go back to my data source, then I will see that this is the source pane which it contains. And this is where I can see the data preview. Okay. Now, there is one interesting thing to note here is that you cannot actually do a lot of data transformation over here. As you can see over here, you cannot delete a column for sure. You can hide certain columns. And this is where the part actually ends. So you just load the data into the interface, and then you create, then you go to the sheet view, and then you start creating the dashboards. So this is with respect to the interface I see in the Tableau. So let's now see how Power BI interface looks. So if I go over here to Power BI and expand this a little bit, and if you see over here, you have basically got an interface which is very similar to how Power BI interface works. The Excel interface works. So if you see over here, you have this all the Excel options which is present at the top corner. And I have multiple data options which is connected over here. And on to my right, I can see the chart types. Now let's see how this gets displayed when we see in Tableau. So in Tableau, basically, I have my chart type right at the show me option, again onto my right side, similar to how it is over there. But the table view is on the left side. And all my data view is present over here. And you can see that there are a lot of options which I can see over here as I click on these options. One important fact to differentiate between the two is going to be if I just minimize over here If you can see over here, all your sheets will be created in Power BI in basically this view. There is only one view where all your dashboards and reporting and the sheets are created. So essentially, you don't have to make multiple views unless until you want to add more charts. Tableau, on the other hand, has multiple sheets. So every sheet contains one chart, and your dashboard is going to be a combination of all the charts. So it has a separate view of the dashboard. And when I simply drag and drop over here, I will create the dashboard. So this is with respect to the interface and the view that the Tableau offers, and of course the Power BI. Now let's try to understand the other aspects of this, which is the data formatting. So in data formatting, how do we define data formatting? So data formatting, we define basically by the ease with which I can create one visual, and how I can effectively format and how beautiful the visualization looks or how effective the visualization looks. So based on those parameters, I'm going to define the data formatting between the two tools. So let's try to understand with a use case over here. So let's say I want to create a simple donut chart. So that is the use case number one. So in Tableau, I do not have an option of donut chart over here, which means that I have to build a donut chart from scratch. Whereas if I go over here in Power BI, there is an option called as donut chart right over here. All right. So the faster way, of course, is in Power BI, where I can easily select that donut chart and create it. In Tableau, on the other hand, it is still easy, but I do require some effort and some time to create it. So that is one difference between the two. What could be the advantage of creating a custom-based chart? So advantage could be that I can create it from scratch and I can customize it the way I want. So I don't have to rely on a pre-defined template, which Power BI gives me. But again, the question is, if the pre-defined template is good, then why do I have to bother with that, right? So that depends upon you as to how deep you want to go and how deep the rabbit hole you want to go within creating the customized charts. So similarly, there are other things also with respect to formatting. Let's say I want to create a KPI card. So let's create a KPI card in Tableau first. So what do I have to do? So I will drag one of the measures and I will put over to the text over here. So that's all. So this is how the KPI card is created and you are done with it. If I want to format this further, I have to click on the text, select on the three dots, and then I will write, let's say, total profit. So I'm going to write this title over here. And I'm going to format this. I'm going to keep this bold. I'm going to give this medium. And I'm going to increase the size and click on apply. So this is how your profit and text is going to be. I'm going to make this as entire view and horizontal center. So if I do this, you can see that I have created a simple KPI card, which is of profit in a sheet. Now let's see how it looks in Power BI. So in Power BI, if I go over here, and here I have to connect basically to a data source, and let's see how this will happen. So if I look over here, and I want to create the same KPI card. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to select the KPI card option, which is over here. In fact, I have multiple options with respect to KPI card. I can select the new card as well as the old card. So here I'm selecting the old card over here. I'm going to select this tool. I'm going to select the card, that is the chart type. And then I'm going to select profit from here. So this will actually give me the total profit right off the bat. So this is giving me this value, and you can see that with respect to formatting, this looks much better than the formatting which I have in Tableau. Now I can do more things over here. So for example, I'm clicking on this format option, or I can click the format option onto the top right over here. And let's say under size and style, I want to bring some shadows over here. So I can switch on the shadow and you can see that the shadow has come and I want to make the corners round. So all I have to do is I have to click on this required options and I have rounded the corners. In fact, I can put more such things such as background. I can change the background color. I can make it to more grayish. So these are the things I can do and I can do it with ease. So definitely this looks much better and the formatting option is also easily accessible for me. Now let's see how in Tableau I can achieve this effect. So first for the rounded corners, I don't think there is any option where I can do a rounded corners because if I go over here as format and I go under borders, I don't see any option for rounding the corners. And I also don't see the option of shadowing. So these options are not present. However, I can create some borders which is related to my square shape. So this one looks slightly tedious, I feel, and little unattractive, but the goal of showing the total profit in both the cases is satisfiable for me. So that is with respect to formatting. Another advantage or disadvantage I would like to say is, another aspect I would like to say is, let's say I want to create another KPI card. So my option would be either I have to duplicate this sheet. I duplicate this sheet over here. And then instead of profit, I want to calculate sales. And I will put sales right above this. And if I go over here, text, and this will go as total sales. And this I'm going to apply over here. So here I have renamed that to total sales over here. And if I click on format, I can change this to a currency if I want. And based on my locale, it has changed the currency. I can do the same thing over here, but I have to repeat this step. Oh, accidentally, I have done the discrete. So here again, I can do the same aspect over here. Now let's try to understand in Power BI how this thing is being done. So if I go over here, all I have to do over here is I have to select this chart, press Control C, and then do Control V. Control C, Control V. And then you can drag this over here. And now in this second card, if I go over to the field side, I'm going to put sum of sales over here. I'm going to search for sales and I'm going to drag it over here. So you can see that it has taken all the formatting which is there in the previous card and it has even renamed the chart title and everything. So again, this is a very convenient way of formatting the charts and very convenient way of creating more charts with ease. So that is with respect to formatting, which I think it's I think slightly better, I would say, in Power BI, where I can do these things. Other things I can do in formatting is I can insert some new charts over here. And if I go to view over here, I can change the way this entire theme of the report looks. Again, remember that Power BI starts from the report view itself, and that's why all these themes are visible over here. And you can instantly select the themes of your choice. Now, if I see Tableau, now in Tableau, basically, I don't have such themes. It is again very customized like a stock Android, and you can build something of your choice that you want. So that is another difference that is worth highlighting over here. So I think we have covered enough about the data formatting, and this is what it is. Let's try to understand what is the calculation part with the help of use cases as to how each tool gets performed. All right. Now we'll proceed with the next part, which is the calculation part. So in the calculation, we are going to compare both the tools using the certain use cases. And yes, let's proceed with that as to how it is going to work. So we are going to see a couple of use cases using both the tools, and then we will see how it is going to work. So if I come over here onto Tableau, so my use case one is going to be, I need to find out what is the average of a country. So now we are going to see the calculation part. And in the calculation part, we are going to compare with certain use cases as to how you can approach the problem using Tableau and how you can approach the same problem using Power BI. So let's see how this works. So I am over here in the Tableau layout. And here I'm searching for country. And my objective is basically to find the country level sales. I'm sorry, the average of entire country level sales. So which means that I want to add up all this country, the sum of sales, and divide it by the number of countries which are present in the table. And if I go to my bottom right, bottom left over here, you can see that it has 147 marks or 147 rows, which means that it is the total sum divided by 147 will give you the average of the country. So that is the approach we are going to use. And let's see how it is done. So if I clear my worksheet over here, so the first objective is I need to find the country level sales which is present. So for this, I will create a new calculated field and I'm going to write average country sales. And here I'm going to use fixed at country dimension and measure is going to be sum of sales. So this will give you the country level sales for each country. This total sales for each country. And you got this. This is going to be total country sales. All right. So now, if I am going to put this into sum of over here, this would give me the total sales. And if I convert this into average, this is my essentially the sum of sales, the average sales of country. So per country or country, I got this value. So this is the approach. Another way I could have approached the same thing is, let's say I am putting the value country over here. You want to calculate the average value for each. The average value should come the same value at each row for the country. If that is the task, then what I have to do is I have to create a new calculated field and I have to say total sales, which essentially should ignore each one of these values. So that is going to be definitely fixed and sum of sales. Fixed and sum of sales. This is going to give me the total sales. And next, I'm going to use the average sales of the country as a calculated field. And here I'm going to put total sales divided by the distinct count of the country. So which will give me the total countries which are present. And this gives me the total sale. And now if I'm going to put this over here, you can see that this is your average sales which has come. So this is another approach if you want to get the same value at each row. So two approaches we have seen, the single approach and as well as the multiple row approach. Now to attempt the same thing in Power BI, how we're going to do that? So I will go to the Power BI interface and here I am going to basically use this data and I'm going to create a new measure. So in the new measure, I have to calculate the average of a country. So I'm going to use an iterator function, average x. The table is going to be using all. I'm going to ignore the filters for country if there is any. Then I'm going to use a calculate function and I'm going to use this sum of sales. And I'm going to name this measure as average sales of country. Okay, and I'm going to press enter. Okay. So this is the way I'm going to use. And in order to check the value, I'm going to use a KPI card. And I'm going to put this over here. So I got the same value, 86,000, just like I got in the last one. And again, if I want to use at a table level, I'm going to create table. I'm going to search for country and average sales, and you can see that I'm getting the same value. So if you see by the approach wise, I think in Power BI, you have to use the iterator function. You have to understand what is an iterator function, and then only you will be able to do this. In Tableau, on the other hand, you have to understand how the level of detail function works. So how the level of detail works, if you understand those concepts, then mastering this calculation is easy. Power BI, on the other hand, you have to understand basically how the filter functions works and how the iterator function works for approaching these kind of problems. So this is one use case I wanted to discuss. The next one is the data source connections. So in a data source connection, how and what type of connections are supported and how we can approach using different tools. So let's see what type of connections are supported in Tableau Public, and then we'll go to the Power BI. So if I go to Tableau over here, then if I go over here, then what I can see here is, if I go over to the source data, I can see that these are the connections that Tableau Public supports. So which is basically limited number of connections. And if I click on more options, these are the total connections which Tableau Public supports. So remember that Tableau Public is an open source, and that is why it has limited connections. Now let's look at Power BI over here. In Power BI, if I go over here to the get data, I can see that it supports a lot more connections than in Tableau, which has been mentioned. And if I click on more, I can see that I have a lot more connections to support even in the free version of Power BI. So that is again the biggest advantage of Power BI is that you can connect to different sources of data without having to pay for a premium. Whereas in Tableau, you don't have that luxury. So for example, data like SQL Server or MySQL, for example, I can connect easily in Power BI, but the same is not possible in Tableau's free version. We have to use the Tableau Professional or the Tableau Desktop that we call it. So that is one part with respect to the data source and the connections. The next part is whether you can save the file locally. So saving the file locally in Power BI versus Tableau. So in Tableau Public, you essentially cannot save the file locally. You have to publish this. When I click on Control S, this will get published to the Tableau Public website. So if I'm going to save this, it is going to save my Tableau Public repository, as you can see over here. But in Power BI, I can save this locally to my desktop. I don't need to publish it. So that is another advantage. If you are working with a very sensitive data and you want to use the free version, then Power BI would be a good thing because you can easily see, you can easily save the file to your local desktop. So that is one thing. Coming to the saving and publishing of the data. So in the saving and publishing of the data, I have to sign in over here. And you can see that in Power BI desktop, it requires you to have an organizational ID. So basically, it requires you to have what we call it as organization ID. Organization ID means you cannot use your basically the personal ID. You have to use an organization ID over here. Whereas in Tableau, I don't have any restriction in Tableau Public. I can easily upload, I can easily create my account using my personal ID and then I can upload it. So that is where publishing of services, it differs. Right over here. And if you can see this pricing, Power BI Pro has per user 830 rupees per user per month. So basically, this is the way the Power BI gives you the licenses with respect to individual users. And for each individual user who is going to view the report or edit the report, this is the style of license that you have to give. But remember that this comes with the E5 Microsoft 365, and this is your basic package, which is there. The premium one is 1665, which has more basically the data storage or the data capacity. And if your data storage is ideally, if it is greater than 1 GB, then usually this plan is recommended, which is right over here. Now, Tableau pricing, unfortunately, when I saw the results, I did not see that it is not there in INR rupees. It is only there in USD. So let's see how the pricings of Tableau is present. So you have basically a Tableau cloud that is hosted, assuming that the host is going to be Tableau cloud. Then for anything, whether you are using a Tableau cloud or a Tableau server for publishing your report, there will be a creator license which is going to be there. And this is the price, $900 in a year. So your $900 basically comes close to, I think, 70 or 80,000 in a year or more than that. Then you have something called as Explorer and a viewer license. So Explorer is somewhere between viewer and creator. Explorer can only edit certain part of the databases, and they cannot build them from the scratch. And you have something called as viewer, which is $15, approximately comes down to 1,250 per month. So this is the price split. And if you see, if you take one viewer license and one creator license, then this is going to be your price for the total. That is 1,080 basically dollars for the entire year. So that's the price split up that we are looking at. So it is clearly seen that in terms of pricing, the Tableau is more, but when you are acquiring more and more data as an enterprise, then I think the cost almost comes to the same, or in fact, Power BI can be more expensive. Again, the data source size. So as discussed in the previous section with respect to pricing, till 1 GB of data, your Power BI, the basic user license will work. But over that, you have to purchase more storage or you have to go to the premium source. Whereas in Tableau, there is no restriction on with respect to the size of the data source. Rather, it is based upon the creator license cost and the monthly cost that is present. So the monthly cost, I think, is pretty straightforward. But the creator cost is, I think, is significantly high in Tableau. In Power BI, there is no cost for creator, as I have shown you in the website as well. It is only the cost for the individual users or for the licenses that you are purchasing for viewing the data. All right. So this concludes our Tableau versus Power BI analysis. We had analyzed using various factors. In case I have missed any factor, or do you think that I need to explain one of those factors in depth, then feel free to mention in the comments, and I will make another video highlighting the differences between the two. So both are good tools in terms of ease of use and the popularity. And I leave it up to you to explore on your own and see which tool is suitable for you. My personal suggestion would be that start with any one tool and explore both the tools and see the variations and the differences that you can find. So this is Tata Subramaniam. I'm signing off. Thank you so much.